The US government's strategy to spread democracy is intended to disrupt the royals sitting upon peacock thrones as much as to dislodge valuable resources. In North Africa, the objective was to derail the planned European development with new industries equipped with roll-off port facilities run by cheaper skilled Arab labor. In the rest of the Arab Mideast, the objective has been to let loose a band of Keystone cops that unseat the House of Saud itself in a most bizarre sequence of events. The overthrow of Mubarak in Egypt required a huge financial assist by the Saudis, hardly a team effort with the Obama admin clown show. The retreat from Syria has angered the Saudi royal family in unspeakable terms. They have responded by threatening the shutdown of US embassies in Saudi Arabia. Hidden in the many conflicts are the pipeline politics, which the US government cannot afford to reveal. Doing so would make crystal clear its ulterior motives, its weakened position, and the rise of the natural gas co-op led by the Russian Gazprom giant. Revealing the fading power of OPEC as the Saudi weapon to enforce the king dollar scepter would accelerate the dollar alternative movement led by the Eastern Alliance. The Syrian war was all about blocking the completion of the Shiite gas pipeline from Iran. The US could not stop the Iraq-Pakistan gas pipeline. The weakness of the US dollar will be made evident by the strangle of natural gas pipelines, mostly run by Gazprom. The US lost the pipeline wars to Russia long ago. The Western population is slowly coming to grips with the rise of the Shiite majority in Iraq. Yes, the United States lost the Iraq war. Yes, the United States will soon have lost the Afghan war, except for the heroin booty. Valued at over $800 billion in narco profit annually, it has been the big prize on the battlefield, supported by soldier blood and guts. At an estimated $6 trillion all-in war cost, thank the Bush II administration for another folly that equals 1/3 of the national debt. The great turning point for the global dollar politics lies in the massive changes underway with the petrodollar. The Saudis urgently seek a new protector for the Persian Gulf. It will be China to wear the cape. The Saudis will soon announce acceptance for oil payments in euro terms, in yen terms, in British pound terms, and, most importantly, in Chinese yuan terms. The effect will be felt like a gigantic crash impact of a 7-story building hitting the ground, marking the death of the petrodollar. It has served for the foundation for the US dollar for 40 years, since the Arab 1973 embargo. The resolution involved a grand pact engineered by Kissinger. It called for recycling of Arab oil surplus into US Treasury bonds used to fill the many national banking systems across the world. The unraveling of the petrodollar standard will bring about colossal reformation of the many national banking systems. They will ditch the US T-bonds in favor of a mix of Chinese yuan and gold bullion. Later, the same yuan will become partially gold-backed. Game over for the king dollar. The global resistance movement is accelerating with tremendous speed. Back in 2009, the jackass stated that the first nations to depart the US dollar system would emerge as the leaders of the next chapter of the new paradigm. The warning was that nations should find themselves in an urgent situation whereby maintaining the current US dollar or T-bond system would bring about the death of their currency, bonds, banks, and their economies. Conforming and adhering to the king dollar allegiance would be a death sentence. In the last few months, since the retreat from the taper talk by the US Fed, since the full outward adoption of QE to infinity and ZERP forever, the world has come to conclude that the reign of the king dollar is over. They are noticing the collapse of the current system due to continued hypermonetary inflation and full dependence on phony money, complete with amplified dispensation to the banker elite. Alternatives to the US dollar are well along in design, approaching implementation for commerce wherein the gold trade standard will be installed. The impact waves will be powerful, sweeping aside the fiat paper currencies and their flimsy sovereign bond reinforcement and implied foundation of debt. Never can a monetary system rest upon a debt foundation without a near-complete destruction of capitalist systems. The hyper-monetary inflation that has emerged as consensus central bank policy has resulted in global capital destruction due to rising cost structure, a direct consequence of chronic monetary inflation of the exported variety. Monetary inflation kills capital. Exported monetary inflation kills foreign capital. We have challenged the clueless cast of economist hacks to rebuttal, but not a word has come. The QE to infinity policy, with its rancid wreckage from ruinous bond monetization, is the epitome of capital destruction. The Keynesian school has presided over a ravaged field. The von Mises school of sound money, of asset-backed monetary systems or gold-reinforced trade systems will take over from the mad professors, the criminal bankers, and the narco-dripped militarist hands. It seems like a comedy. A bad joke. The Obama admin appeared to intentionally force a shutdown of the US government, even if temporary. An element of farce and lunacy prevailed. Black swans were spotted swimming around the White House moat. The shutdown actually cost more than it saved due to startup reinitializations of queer systems. From a perspective of 5,000 kilometers south, the entire sequence of events appeared orchestrated by a hidden hand to satisfy an ulterior motive, even to conduct a strange test. As the world watched in dismay and horror, the US government did shut down many offices and ports and parks. The incompetence of the political bodies was laid bare for all to see, the usual battle of entitlements versus taxes on the main. It was the socialists versus the communists, actually, which never results in compromise. See history with Hitler versus Stalin. Sorry, forgot that Americans do not read history, study history, or learn from history. Evidence is the revered Weimar printing press usage, the adulation from financial market dependence, the taxation to oblivion, the repeat of the British folly and the Soviet folly in Afghanistan. The US government shutdown offered an unusual glimpse, much like a trial balloon, to test the reaction across the world. It was like the captain of the USS White Horror House taking initial measures to scuttle the ship just to see if anyone would jump in reaction or retreat in horror or notice at all. The gut tells me that the Chinese ordered the temporary shutdown in order to fine-tune with delicate calibration many specific systems which required a legal default on the books, although temporary. They wanted to conduct a test to determine the reaction within the most complex financial contraption ever devised by man, the U.S. Treasury bond market. Its tentacles include the US T-bond futures, the TNX options, the interest rate swap contracts, the derivatives from the REMIX and the USA agency bonds, the forex swaps, the Social Security trust funds, all coming under the Exchange Stabilization Fund umbrella. Nobody can adequately predict the effects within such a complex, obscenely twisted system built by mad professors in criminal minds, replete with back doors for presidential thefts. So the Chinese ordered a test. My joke recently has been that China lacks rainwater, no longer a secret. They have dried rivers that used to supply Beijing as water. The arid land has not received adequate rainfall, so China plans to convert its US T-bonds and US agency bonds into water by calling on their amplified liquidity characteristics. A trial run for default could very possibly have been staged. The critical point of fracture and breakdown lies in the repo market. It is little known, little followed, and little understood. It serves as the vast overnight liquidity supply engine. Bear in mind that insolvency plus illiquidity equals bankruptcy. Translate to mean that the many important insolvent systems, big banks, government, debt finance, if subjected to a sudden bout of liquidity halt, would be quickly thrust into a situation where failure and bankruptcy could result. The critical repo market suffered seizures in September as the US Treasury bond found itself not acceptable as collateral from a legal standpoint due to the temporary shutdown. The US T-bond was all of a sudden a defaulted bond, not worthy of collateral for overnight loans. So much for pristine paper. The trials in violent events have resulted in actual events done by the guardians, is my suspicion. The October hat-trick letter offered details on the complex situation, a trickle-down sequence of wrecked systems. The objective might be to arrange for a vast centrifuge operated by the US Federal Reserve to dispense US dollars in cash redemption for US T-bills, orchestrated by Chinese hands, mainly for their benefit. Operation Twist enabled the Chinese to swap out of long-term US T-bonds in favor of short-term US T-bills. Now they want out of them too. Witness the upcoming US dollar USTB repo sequential default centrifuge. The US Fed is not in a position to prevent it. The US Department of Treasury is not in a position to stop it.